Now, trying to establish causation of mental disorders is tricky for a number of reasons. First off, it's important to recognize that some causes are distal and some are proximal. Distal causal factors are ones that happen way back in time. So they're not immediately preceding a mental disorder. And proximal, it's the opposite. They're more immediate causal factors. So if you're talking about a particular person who uh, who has depression, so the distal causal factors might be that they grew up with a family that had difficulty talking about emotions, who had maybe some adverse childhood experiences, who had poverty and difficulty growing up. Maybe the parent was more of a pessimist, and that they taught that to the child. But those are all distal causal factors. The This person uh, may not develop depression at that time, but they may develop depression when they lose their job. And so the loss of job might be the proximal immediate causal factor. So you have to understand that both can be true, but they're a little bit different in terms of how they bring about mental illness. The other challenge is also that effects can serve as feedback that in turn influences the causes. So I just mentioned that with eating disorders, often there's perfectionism. But we know that the personality trait of being a perfectionist, that will increase a person's likelihood of having an eating disorder. But we also know that starvation, when a person is withheld food, there's been studies that have withheld food from college students for a time and found that when that occurs, they become more perfectionistic, and that includes the way that they interact with their food when it's over. And so there's this idea that that perfectionism causes the eating problems, but eating problems could also cause the perfectionism. And that's actually really true of a number of different um, conditions. So depression is characterized by negative thinking, but the negative thinking is sometimes the result of the depression that its effects on your life can make things more difficult and can make a person be more negative. Um, so it's impossible really to determine initial cause. You see here these graphics of the dominoes falling, and it's just this cycle of events, and it's so hard to actually say, okay, what actually caused this in the first place.